All right, do another walkthrough video on TryHackMe. This one's enterprise. This is more realistic AD environment. Allows you to kind of explore the Kerberos portion of AD and pull information via that way. It is a challenge room. So let's go ahead and start looking at the room. So the room has two tasks. It has a get connected, which is just making sure you're connected to the VPN. And then the second task is submitting the flags. So what we'll go ahead and do is grab the IP address and start our scanning. So what we'll do is we echo in the IP into a targets file. This makes sure that we stay on task, that we don't scan any other assets within the environment. You definitely want to do this whenever you're on a more focused pen test. Just make sure that you don't touch anything else, and then that way you don't get in any trouble. All right, so we got the targets file set up, and we'll go ahead and start our nmap command. So we're going to do an initial scan. So -il is input list. That's going to read the IP addresses from that text file. T5 is going to be as fast as possible. So again, depending on your environment, you'll need to throttle this back on like a VPN connection that's very heavy or takes a lot of time to get responses back. You're not going to be able to beat that through as fast. Then we're going to output all formats. It's going to start off with the init scan, so that's going to put out the init greppable nmap format, and the XML. Show us open ports. Be very verbose about the scanning, and then don't ping any ports, just scan them. And so we'll do that there. Then we'll also do our detailed scan. So for our detailed scan, the additional things that we're adding is advanced OS detection. So we're going to also invoke the nmap scripting engine to run the category of default. Any scripts that start with SMB, any scripts that start with LDAP, any scripts that start with HTTP. And then with the scripts, you need to set a timeout because some of the scripts will just sit there and keep going in a loop and they'll never stop. So by specifying the timeout, you're at least telling them that they have to quit after 2 minutes here. That's the 2M. Again, we're going to be very verbose. We want to put output all formats and start that off with detailed and then no ping. So we'll kick that off. We'll kick this one off. And so we're seeing a lot of different ports on this system, which is really good. All right, so one of the things as you learn and you get used to scanning environments and pen testing is some services open on a system definitely indicate if it's a Active Directory domain controller and if it's set basically to be not as secure as it probably should be on the internal environment. So standard Windows stuff we're seeing is Windows RPC 135 and then NetBIOS SSN 139 and then 445, that's SMB. So those are kind of standard on Windows systems that aren't set up for closing off those ports to the network. For the domain controller side, the additional ports that you usually will always end up seeing is port 88, Kerberos, 53, sometimes especially if it manages the DNS inside the environment. And then you got the Kerberos password 464 and then LDAP. So LDAP is the Linux equivalent to AD, and kind of AD is built on LDAP basically, and so that kind of allows you to query a lot of the services and things like that, and understand what's underneath all that. So we got our initial scan back. We'll go ahead and do a more full port scan. So I'm just going to change this. We'll change this to full. We're going to change, so we'll want to get service versions again, and we'll do P dash P dash space. So what this is telling Nmap, you can specify a starting port and then an end port. And so by us doing uh, nothing after the, before this dash or after the dash, it basically is going to scan all 65,535 ports. If I wanted to start just at like port 5 and then go to the end, it could do that. Or if I wanted to start at um, port 0 or 1 and then only go to 50, I could do it that way. So just different ways that you can kind of control the scanning here. So now we got our scanning, our more detailed scanning going. We can start enumerating some of these ports and start looking at some of this stuff. So, first thing that usually the way I focus is I'll go top down. So, can I do anything with the domain port? Not really. What about HTTP? Well, I can go look at the website. I can do Gobuster. I can do Nikto. I can do those type of things. So let's start that portion of it. So we'll create a new tab. Let's go to the website first and see if there's anything that kind of gives us an idea what this website is. Okay, so it's just enterprise domain controller keep out. So it's a standard, looks like a regular page. Let's look at the page source, see if there's anything in here. So it doesn't really look like much there. So in this case, then that's where you start running Gobuster to see if there's any indications of directories hidden or anything like that. So if you've not used Gobuster before, this is a new install of Kali. So you'll have to install it. All right. So what you're looking for is directory, and then we're going to specify a word list for it to look at. Just make sure. Okay, so it's there. All right. Again, with the newer installations of Kali or fresh install, you want to make sure that the word list is there. So we're going to do Gobuster. We're going to do dir. We're going to specify the URL. Sorry, -u. Okay, we want this URL. And now we're going to specify the word list. So that's going to be user, share, dirbuster. Word list. They changed it all. All right, so the additional package that you want to do, again, you have to install the sudo app install is seclist. So seclist has directories that you can go in and use as a word list. Well, let's installing that. Let's see how our scans are going. All right, so some additional things that we'll see on the server now. So, because we use verbose scanning, we can see, server time. There's the enterprise, so it's called enterprise THM. There's a .NET messaging framing service on 3989. There's a HTTP service on 7990. And additional Windows RPC ports. So these are again big indication that you're on a Windows or you're scanning a Windows system. The 49,000 ports. The host is called LabDC. So that's a good another piece of information. What we'll need to do here is eventually add that to our host file. All right, so when we do the script scanning, and this is where you get a lot of the value of the Nmap, is again it can start running all these different additional modules that will give you more information about the whole environment. So the first big thing that we see here is that again the server is called Enterprise THM. The domain is called Enterprise THM, and then the server is called lab.enterprise THM. So really gets you that more information about that. And then additional LDAP policies. These are just usually set up whenever Active Directory gets set up. And so again, because we found an LDAP port, we're doing the same query type scripts. Pulled some information from RDP there. Okay. So if we need to add that in there, we can. It'd probably be good to go ahead and do that, just because as some of the tools will need a DNS lookup instead. So to edit your Etsy host file, that's where most systems look up an IP address first. So if you don't know the order, it looks up on your host file, and then from there it goes to your internal DNS server. And if it doesn't know, then it asks the main .com or .org or whatever. And usually what that tells you is, well, I don't know exactly directly, but go ask this specific server, and that usually points to another server, and then that gives you the actual address. So again, understanding how DNS works really allows you to kind of manipulate that if you're on a certain network or set up a certain way. So in this case here, what we're just doing is putting that IP address, and what we're going to do is assign the host names to that. Okay. So we're going to say enterprise THM. Also do lab.enterprise THM and lab DC. So again, that was all from the Nmap scans. Okay, we'll want to save that. And that's all you need to do. You won't need to do anything additional. It's already, once you save it, you'll be able to use that, and it will just go directly to the IP address from now on. Okay. All right, so we have seclist now installed. We should be able to use that. So that's going to be in user share seclist. And then here's your different directories. So we'll want to do discovery, and then they'll have web content. Sure, show us all those. And so then here's your directory list that we want to use for Gobuster. And we'll do 2.3 medium. Okay, so now we have that the location, we can just go ahead and write our Gobuster command. So Gobuster dir -URL. Since we have our one IP in that targets file, we can do bash inclusion. So we're executing with the $sign open parentheses. What we're doing here is we're executing this command first. Whatever that result is gets replaced basically in that spot, and then the rest of the command gets ran. So, and then we're going to do that, and we want to output the list. So -O, Gobuster, and this is port 80. .text. So that's going to run. Additionally, when we did all the full port scan, we saw that there was a additional port that had HTTP service running on it. Let's see here. That one did not detect it, but this one did. And it's port 7990. So we can look at that real quick and see. Okay, some kind of Atlassian service there. So we'll go ahead and get that scanning also. Okay, web content, directory list, 2.3 medium, .text. All right, so now we got both Gobuster going on both HTTP ports. Again, it's just looking at directories, trying to get if there's any additional directories that can be found. All right, so we focused on port 80 first. While that's working, we're trying different things. Additionally, at the web page, we could do view the source, see if there's any additional comments. Okay, so from here, what we see is that this page was saved with single file, and there's the link to the URL. There's no additional hidden comments or things like that. Looks like it goes really far to the right here. So whatever that is. Looks like it's some encoded, probably picture or something like that to kind of be able to host it without loading images. Yeah. All right, so not much there. Again, we can try playing with this and seeing. We can see that it really didn't go anywhere. Again, if you wanted to also do inspect element, network will show you if it actually does any request or makes any calls out or anything like that. So we can see that it did do a get here. If you bring this up, you can see the request and the response. So again, it's not really sending out anything. It's not sending any cookies. So it's not really going anywhere. So those don't really go. That actually goes to Atlassian, which we're not going to be able to do anything with. Same thing there. All right, so this is not really working page, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any information, right? So it says a reminder to all enterprise THM employees, we're moving to GitHub. So if we look up enterprise THM, So we see that there is an enterprise THM on GitHub. We see that there was 2 commits. So we want to look at those commits, just see if there's anything different here. So they created this, and then that was the changed file, and then they updated it. So what did they update with? So they just changed. So the person that committed this, we can look at their profile and see if maybe they have anything about them. You can also see at the enterprise level who has access to this. So it does have one person, Nick Enterprise Dev. So they have one repo, and this has a system information. So nothing here, but what we did see again is that the code had multiple commits, and so you want to look at both commits. Okay, so in here, what they basically did is they saved a script to GitHub with a username and a password. So this is pretty big. How realistic is this? This is pretty realistic. I've seen this sometimes on internal environments where they, again, don't think anyone will get in on the network. So what's really the big deal? And that really doesn't get you anything. They don't think that someone will look at that. So this script here will have this information, and most of the time that's active accounts. So we'll see what that does. All right, let's open up another terminal window here while those are still going. So the additional ports that we could use, that information is SMB or LDAP. So let's first see if we get any information from the server via SMB. So we'll try SMB map first. Again, if you've never used SMB map, what it does is it's going to list out shares and things like that. So we do SMB map. We'll try anonymous first, and then we'll go from there. So again, we're going to use that bash scripting technique there. All right, so anonymous user is not reporting anything, so we can try to do an actual user. So we had Nick, and then P for password. We'll need to grab that password out of there. All right, so we do have read-only access to the server with that credentials. Again, we do see user share, maybe some logon server information, a docs. So we would be able to use that credentials to grab information. So let's make a directory in here. Let's call this loot. And again, anything that you want to download from a server and things like that, you want to kind of keep that separate from your scanning data, because again, those could be used as artifacts as pen testing, and so you want to have that separated. On a bigger environment, on a bigger pen test, what you'll almost want to do is create a directory for each system that you're doing this type of stuff on, and then create a loot directory in that. So then like your scan results could be for in that system directory, and then your loot directory could be a part of that too. Um, Especially when you're looking at like file shares and stuff like that. All right, so we're going to connect with this. So the way you could do it multiple ways. You could do SMB Connect or SMB Client. We could mount the drive and then just copy the information that way. We'll use SMB Client and do it in that method, just as a way to manage it. All right, so SMB Client. When you're using SMB Client, again, you'll need to do the slashes because you need to escape that. So that should be enough slashes there. We can and we'll do docs first. Yep. Okay, so it can't read that targets file because I'm not in the same directory as it was. So I'll need to go back one. There we go. All right, so this is saying enter work group root's password. We're not that user, so we can try that and see. See if we get any anonymous access. Doesn't so we are able to get anonymous access via SMB client, so that's interesting. We do get 2 files there, it looks like. Let's see how Gobuster's doing as it's reading the rest of these files. So it doesn't look like it's found anything yet, just erroring out on certain portions of it. Okay. So we did get disconnected from the server, it looks like. All right, so we're connected now. All right, so in order to download these files, what we're going to do is these are SMB related commands. So if you need help, you could do help. Again, it's similar to FTP, so certain commands only work in there. It's not like you have direct access to the Windows server and can execute a command or anything like that. So you have to use these specific SMB commands. So for us, we're going to do recurse on. We're going to turn prompt off. All right. And then what we're going to do is just get the files out of there. So again, that's going to download that into our loot directory. All right, and we're done with this one. So we're going to exit, and then we're going to go into the users. So this would be a vulnerability that I would flag, is that anonymous users can access file shares because it should require authentication. Shouldn't allow me to just query these files and download them. So same thing, we're going to do the same exact thing. So recurse, basically, again, it's going to dive into each directory. Prompt off is going to not make us say yes to every file that it's going to download. Okay. So this is going to download these files. While we're waiting on that, we could move on to dumping the domain, right? So with LDAP open, we have the ability to kind of um, dump the domain and see all the users and accounts and stuff like that. And this works out in a really good graphical fashion. So if you're doing this on a pen test, most of the time this is not going to get caught because um, it's using the actual functionality uh, that's there for Windows to understand users and things like that. So again, we'll do our bash incatenation thing there. Again, on different systems, you might want to build like SM or LDAP servers .text, and then you would have this as a for loop, basically going through each one and doing it that way. So we're gonna do the IP address. We need to specify a username, and so now at this level we're going as a user. So we need to um, do that. So we're going to do lab DC, put this in single ticks, and we're going to specify nick and then -p and their password. Okay, let's see if that works out. Might have to put, okay, let's try. All right, so it's in. All right. So the cool thing about that LDAP dump is it basically writes out HTML files, which, again, is a nice graphical way to see this. Um, the one that you're going to want is, let's look at domain user. So we could do Firefox and then domain. Domain underscore users .html. So pretty cool. Now you can see all the users, what members they're groups of. These are all clickable. You can see normal accounts don't expire. So these are, um, you know, interesting things. You can also see descriptions. So if an admin did something bad, like change password from password 123, so we do have a contractor that we could try to see. They are just a domain user, so that really doesn't give us additional thing. They do have a password exemption policy. It does this sensitive account. Um, so we could dive into that and see what else that gets us. But we're nicked, and nick's a contractor, so that probably is going to get us the same um, level, really. Just not going to go anywhere. We do see Bitbucker or Bitbucket, so that's the actual name there. Bitbucket is a remote desktop user. That looks like it's the only one too. So we can click here and we'll see the groups. So again, this is just users by groups. So each group is listed out and then who's a part of that. There's only the administrator and domain admins. So there's the contractors, sensitive accounts. So there's a couple sensitive accounts. Domain users, domain admins. So these are your domain admins here. So Bitbucket is going to be the only remote desktop person. And so we can see if they have anything set up incorrectly in AD that would give us additional information. So like a service principal name, ticket. So let's see if we can get that from there. Looks like we finished all the files up there, so I'm going to exit that. While we have that open, let's go ahead and see if there's any additional files that give us more information. We'll open up this folder. That's not going to be where it's at, but we're going to look into CTFs. We'll look at TryHackMe. This is going to be under Enterprise and loot. So if you remembered, we saved all those SMB files in the loot directory. So we have the two files that we download, RSA secured credentials. Looks like we're not going to be able to look at those. Let's see how the docs looks. Nope, same thing there. Additionally, we're kind of starting to focus in on Bitbucket here, but we could look at all these additional files. So nothing in administrator, it looks like. All users. ALT Bitbucket, default. So we're getting some information here like app data. So this is going to be your applications writing stuff. You could go down this route. You could see maybe if there was, there's temporary internet files that doesn't have anything. History. So maybe if they had browser stuff that was saved there. Again, this is default, so it's not really an actual account. So that's not really, more likely it's not going to have actual like a system that it was, logged into and had stuff there. Same thing with default user, and then there's lab admin. So this we can kind of see there's some app data local. Microsoft, there's credentials. So there's a credential there. So we could look at this or see if this has any data in it. Majority of the time, it just has data that something that you can't get to really. You can look additionally at desktop or documents. Again, maybe they saved a password in clear text somewhere. That's what we're, kind of scourging through these directories. These are all going to be dead ends. But this is on a normal test. This is what you would go through. So, all right, we'll close this out and do the ticket. All right, so we want to clear this out here. That's fine there. Let's exit this one down here. We don't need that anymore. All right, so we're gonna use Impacket. Let's see if we have it. Okay. Impacket. Get user SPNs. Okay. So the DC IP is going to be, and again we could use our bash concatenation right here. So cat targets Okay, that's going to be the DCIP. We need to put the open parentheses there. All right, and then we were successful with lab DC Enterprise THM NIC, so let's do that one again. So again, lab DC and lab DC Enterprise THM slash NIC. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is put their password here and that, and then we're going to do a request. Misspelled enterprise. Let's try lab. ENTERPRISE. No, that's fine. Okay, so using Nick's account, what we were able to do was look up any service principal names. In this case, Bitbucket was one, and it because it dumps out the ticket basically. So once we have that ticket, we need to put this into something that we can break. So let's make a directory, call this passwords. Okay, we'll cd into that, and what we're going to do is copy and paste this into a file. So we'll just echo it. We'll copy, and then we'll do echo, paste it, and this is going to be bitbucket underscore SPN. Let's just put this as .crack so we know what this is. Okay, so then if we look in here, now we have that file. Excellent, right? All right, we need to crack this password and see if we can actually, if the SPN was set up, with the insecure password basically. And if it is, then we'll be able to, crack that and use that actual password. Because this is just a ticket granting ticket, we're not able to kind of just use this as it is. So we need to get that information out of there. All right, so we'll do John. We're going to do bit underscore SPN. And then this word list is going to equal user share word list rock you. All right, so we're going to have to uncompress that file in order to use it first. So let's okay, so we're in the directory, and then it should be, and if I do -H, we should know what is decompress. It's usually -D. Cool. And we're going to do okay. We need to do sudo. All right, so now if we look, we have rockyou.txt. All right, so we got the password for the ticket. That's pretty cool. So again, this would be a finding, creating a service principal name with a insecure password. Again, that it's not complex at all, so it doesn't really do anything for complexity or cracking it, as you saw. It didn't take long. All right, so we have a name and a password now. So what we can do is RDP to this system since we know that that's available. So X free RDP. We're going to use user bit bucket. And now we have the password. We need to put lab.enterprise.thm and let it do dynamic resolution. Okay. So free RDP makes it easier sometimes to do RDP sessions into systems because it can handle like the certificate stuff or things like that. Um, it usually works better than the other one. All right, so we're on the system. There's a user.txt there. So there's the user.txt. We can take this, copy it, and put it into the scoreboard. And that's going to get us our first flag. Excellent. All right, so what do we do on this system? We're on a system now. We need to, discover how do we get our elevated privileges. So again, we could put Metasploit on here and then have it call back to us. We could also, a good go-to tool usually is WinPEAS. So let's look up that. So it's the awesome privilege escalation. Helps if I spell it right. And let's type in WinPEAS. So this repo here has linPEAS and WinPEAS, which is really cool. So what we can do is we can copy the repo, and what we'll then do is in another terminal, because we don't have enough, cd opt and sudo git clone. Okay. We'll make a directory called tools then. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really liking how you have to sudo everything with the new Kali. Okay, so now we have the privilege escalation suite installed. There is WinPEAS there. Okay. and we're going to want the exe. Okay, and I think it's in the binaries folder. And then release. And there's WinPEAS any, okay? So what we need to do is start our Python web directory from here. So what we're going to do is Python 3. And that's going to be, oh man, you're getting the web directory command. -m. -m http.server. And then whatever port that you want to listen on. So that's only 8,000. So basically now anything that connects to the IP 8 on port 8,000 will list out that. So on here, we can now connect to my system and download that binary. So we're going to copy this. Okay. And should have it copied now. Two 12, 219, 8,000. Okay, and then click that. We're going to download it. It's going to complain. All right, it's really going to complain. Copy the shortcut, and then what we can also do is download it via PowerShell. Let's see if we can run it directly. There it is. Ah. All right. Not liking that one, so let's do PowerShell. And then what we want is a download. It's like dash URL. Yeah, there we go. And so let's put this in a directory. We're going to know where this is at. desktop. Okay. And then we're going to do invoke web request dash URI. Paste in that address, and then its out file is here, and then we'll just call this WinPEAS.exe. Okay. So since we're already here, we'll go ahead and run WinPEAS. So again, WinPEAS is doing a bunch of different things in the background, looking for misconfigurations or services running, things like that, that kind of maybe give you the ability to escalate your privileges. So we might have too much information and have to output. Yep, that's what it's going to look like. All right, so similar in Linux, in PowerShell, you can do output text, pipe it in there, and it's going to basically put all the output in there. On the desktop here, see that. Okay. So we can see all the different updates that are installed. Where we're at on the system. This is usually colored, and that's why it's has these weird indications here and stuff like that. So skipping forward to where we want to look at is unquoted. Okay. So what unquoted service paths are going to be are executables that basically uh, don't follow, that have the possibility of being hijacked because the path is not quoted. So you'll see in this one here, you'll notice that the whole path is quoted. There's quotation marks, and then that interprets that as a complete path. On ones that do not have that, as you notice here, you have the potential to put an exe at certain locations, and that's going to get read. So in order to do that, what we need to do is get power up. So we'll do, I think I have power up. So we can close this here. And that's going to be opt, power up, power exploit. And it's going to be privilege. There's power up, okay? So we killed that there. We can go ahead and start this here. And now we'll get power up from the web server. All right, let's look at the web server real quick. Oh, we didn't change the directory, that's why. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we invoked power up. We can get the ACLs of that path there that we looked at. That was from that program 0 tier. Okay. Oh. Let's see here. Okay. Come on. So what we're validating here is that we have write permissions to this, and then who allows access to it. So users can allow, write, and synchronize. That's good. So then what we're going to change is that 0 service basically, and then validate that we have access to that too. So it was called 0 tier 1 service. We're going to get the service ACL of this. And then oops. Might not have that one installed. Nope, doesn't look like it. That's fine. All right, so getting the service ACL is not working. So we could look additionally at services via the GUI. So we could go into your local services. In this case, we'll need to know the user that we were. So we were bit bucket, and the password was buckets, if I remember. If we do John and then show, that shows the password there. Little red bucket. Could additionally try services here. That's not going to let us to do that. So we will have to do it via command line, it looks like. So it's sc and then query. We can try that, and then because we're in PowerShell, we'll need to put the .exe. If we're on the command line, we could do sc. So that's going to list out every one of the services in there. What we're looking again for is we're focusing on the services that we discovered here, and that's that zero trust, zero tier 1 service. And so now we can see that this this service, we got more details about that specifically. The only thing it doesn't tell us is that we can start or stop that service, you know, or any of the details like we would like to. But we can additionally see, you know, if we can get the actual exe and stuff where this is at. So what we're gonna try to do is target maybe this directory right here, the 0. Get the executable there. So let's generate a binary and then use that. We can see again that WinPEAS is giving us this information. They're saying it's DLL hijacking. All right. So on our window here, let's clear these up so we can understand what's about to go happen. All right. We're going to go ahead and make a directory called payloads. CD in that directory. And with that there, we'll go ahead and generate just a reverse shell. So msfnum -p windows shell underscore reverse TCP. lhost is going to be your IP address that you are VPN'd in. So and then we can just pick an L port. We'll do the format as exe, and we're going to output this as 0. All right, and then for down here, we want to do RL wrap. That's going to make sure we don't have to do the backgrounding and then additionally, making sure to do the Python TTY and all that stuff. So app.y. Okay. All right. Well, that's not going to work. So then we'll just do apparently we can't bind to 443. Yeah. We'll need to change this. Okay, now we have that there. We're listening on this port. What we need to do is go ahead and spin up the web server. Python 3 m http server 8. Again, we can choose whatever port that we want. So now we're serving on 9000. Let's go into RDP and then pull that file down. Like our RDP connection disconnected. We'll jump back in and pull it that way. let's look back at the ports too. If this RDP session doesn't work again, what we might be able to do is evil winrm. Here we go. All right, so in our PowerShell session here, we want to pull that file down. Maybe 9,000 this time. And 0. Okay, that's on the desktop now. I want to copy that, and what we're doing is we're putting it in the directory where it should be executed. So C program files 86, 0 tier, and in here. Okay. All right, so with that in place, what we can then do is try to start the service. So we'll try to do sc start. Again, it's called 0 tier 1 service. That looked like it started it. Let's see if we actually get a shell. Nothing there. So let's try stop service. Start. All right, there we go. With that, we got NT authority system. So again, you privilege escalation by doing the path inclusion. So with that, then we would need to move to get the actual root.txt. We have access to the main area now, and let's go cd users, dir cd administrator. Then let's look at desktop. So root. So in Windows, to output a file, you have to do type instead of cat. If we had PowerShell, we could do that, but again, we're in a command prompt because that's what we basically had Metasploit create there. All right, so we'll copy the flag. Submit that one over. That's it. It completes the box. So good use of power up and starting and stopping services, and putting files in locations where are unquoted to get those to execute. Again, we could have put it at any other shell there, any other type of executable, and it would have executed it basically by stopping and starting that service. And it's all due to the way that it's looking at the path, and without it being enclosed in quotation marks, it's just working through each one of those and adding a .exe to that until it gets to the right, till it gets an exe basically. So it tried program, basically program.exe, program files.exe, and then it tried C program files x86.0.exe, and that's when it executed. Okay, hope you learned a lot from the box, and catch you on the next one.